NASCAR 25 is a game I've been excited to play since it was first announced. Over the years, NASCAR games have fallen off hard, and it might not be a coincidence that my interest in NASCAR itself has also waned in recent years. As a kid, I loved it as much as I loved football. Think back to the 06, 07, 08, and 09 seasons. This was what I grew up watching. And as some of you might remember, one of my first retrospectives on this channel was on a NASCAR 05 chase for the Cup. My GOAT of NASCAR games, the one I played a lot as a kid. When NASCAR 09 released, I thought the game looked real. And obviously now it doesn't, but back then it looked shiny and realistic relative to past standards. The core game was a regression from previous NASCAR titles, however, and EA stopped making NASCAR games shortly after, resulting in the Technics titles, the Heat titles, and the infamous NASCAR 21 Ignition. At the same time, however, NASCAR Sim Racing was getting really good on PC via iRacing, a subscription-based racing sim for PC setups where you buy cars and tracks to race on. iRacing focused on being a complete sim. Everything from the grooves in the track to the way cars handle is very close to real life when playing with a wheel, but it was missing the fluff you'd see in a regular sports game that wasn't as sim-focused. When iRacing announced they'd be working on the next NASCAR game, which is now NASCAR 25, I was very intrigued. I made a video talking about it, along with Dale Earnhardt Jr.'s involvement earlier this year, and now the game is finally here, and for the first time in SOFTDRINKTV history, I was actually given a free review copy of a major sports game, which is pretty cool. That being said, it will not affect the outcome of this review in any way. So how well did the iRacing team blend their sim gameplay with this console game aimed towards a more casual audience? Is this game better than NASCAR 21 Ignition, or the Heat games, or even the classic EA Sports titles? Is this the greatest NASCAR game ever made, or is it a disappointment, or somewhere in between? Let's dive in. We should start with the driving itself, which is great, in my opinion. I'm not a NASCAR expert. I'd probably get cooked if I joined those iRacing lobbies you see NASCAR YouTubers playing in, but this game feels very different from past NASCAR console games in a good way. At first, I actually found driving to be way too difficult. And keep in mind, I don't have a wheel set up right now, so I'm reviewing this game with a controller. On the default settings, I found it nearly impossible to maintain a draft with another car with such a sensitive joystick controlling everything. After some tuning to make the gameplay a lot easier, I started to have a really good time. With a wheel, I would imagine the game is much better, but this isn't a PC sim, this is a console game. NASCAR 05 didn't need a wheel to be fun. Luckily, after that initial frustration, I found settings that worked well for me, and there are a ton of settings options to configure and adjust. After that, it was really good. The feeling of being in the middle of the pack, going 4 wide on a super speedway is exhilarating, and probably the best I've experienced in a console NASCAR game. The CPU AI is also really good. They try to block you, they try to avoid wrecks, they put up a fight, they bump you. I found driving against the AI in career mode to be really fun and engaging. Learning the best lines for each track and tweaking the difficulty up as I improve at handling the cars and mastering tracks is a lot of fun and creates progression and gives you a reason to keep on playing. At first, I was feeling a more negative review, and I was going to recommend that more casual players avoid this game entirely due to its difficulty, but I gave the game more time, adjusted more settings. I put another 10 hours into it after my initial reaction, and as I've said, I've been having a great time. I think the game does a good job of providing enough options where anyone of any skill level could theoretically play and have fun, but it should have come with an easier default difficulty for a game most players will be using a controller for, at least in my opinion. There are more instances that we'll get into later like this, where iRacing is playing things a bit too close to sim rather than casual for my liking, but this is just year 1 of the game. And to nail driving this well is a really impressive feat, and a proper way to start building a new sports game. Comparing this to NASCAR 21 Ignition is night and day. Gameplay must come first, and that was iRacing's philosophy here, and it results in a great playing NASCAR game. Maybe even the best driving I've experienced in any console NASCAR game once I got the settings where I liked them. Career mode is another strength, and combined with the gameplay, this mode is what makes the game worth buying, and yes, I think it is worth buying. You start out in a lower series, in this case ARCA, and you work your way up, just like in the old Fight to the Top mode in NASCAR 05. And while you don't have a hero-villain meter, or drivers throwing things at you after a race, it's a very similar experience with some new stuff thrown in. You hire a staff, you have a humble garage, and as you move up, your garage and staff improves a lot. After a race, you get to repair your car, which adds some strategy in how you do it and creates progression you normally wouldn't see in a NASCAR career mode. And after ARCA, you even have multiple cars to manage per series. After a race, you get to see social media reactions from other drivers that are pretty on point. If I spent an entire race wrecking everyone, I'm gonna hear about it after the race. I'm not sure if I noticed drivers driving any differently the next race as a result, but there have been times AI drivers have made aggressive moves on me. One of my favorite parts of the gameplay loop in career mode is getting a new sponsor, deciding you want to choose that sponsor, and then redesigning your car. As someone who always loved Create a Team in Madden, for example, being able to customize the visuals in a sports game is huge for me. The paint booth in this game is really dang good, and I had a lot of fun making new schemes whenever I'd get a new sponsor. My only complaint with the paint booth is that I wish they gave you more numbers to choose from. The mode can also create attachments towards your sponsors. While Big Fish Barbecue didn't pay as much per race as other offers I had, I stuck with them longer than I needed to because I got a notification that my driving was putting them on the map and helping their business. Those little details do wonders for the narrative of this fictional world. I don't want to spoil every detail in the mode, but it's really good, and if you tweak the difficulty, it can be as challenging or as easy as you want. There's a lot to do and the game opens up the farther you go. It's a long but fun grind that I enjoyed playing through and will continue playing through. Other game modes are very sparse, but include Quick Race, Season, and Online. That's it. Online is pretty fun. You can quickly join lobbies of varying difficulty settings and sizes. Giant lobbies are usually chaos, where everyone's swinging wildly on the track causing wrecks, and smaller ones can have some good racing depending on the vibe. Overall, I did enjoy Online as a quick and easy way to race against real people with a good driving model, without the complications and price of an iRacing setup. I'm sure Online is a lot better with a wheel too. Outside of that, you'll notice this is a pretty bare-bones sports game all around, and that's my biggest issue with it. Obviously, the priority was on driving gameplay and the career mode, and for the first year of a game, that's fine. But future titles need more meat. I'd love to see an Eras type mode, where you could play with Dale Jr.'s 8 car, or Richard Petty's 43. Maybe relive some of Jimmy Johnson's championship runs, or Jeff Gordon's first career win. Shoot, let's race with Cale Yarborough! And of course we need some Dale Sr. action. If they can't license every sponsor or driver, which is expected, just fill them in with close enough lookalikes. You know how in the old games, the Penske No. 2 car was sponsored by Rusty Wallace or Kurt Busch instead of Miller Lite, but their logos still resembled Miller Lite? I'd like to see an art team, not AI, recreate NASCAR eras for an epic time capsule mode. That sounds amazing to me. And imagine if you could start your career mode in a different era too. Maybe a career mode where you start in the 80s or 90s and you work your way up to being a modern day unk. If you want a taste of that, Gary Owen has been working on some early 2000s mods for NASCAR Heat 5, which I think are pretty cool. A moments mode would be cool too. Think of the old lightning challenges in NASCAR 05. There's a lot that could be added besides just career mode, quick race, season, and online. Imagine a survival type mode called The Big One, where the game throws you into races with wrecks about to happen, and you have to avoid damaging your car, you have to find your way navigating through the wrecks, or you could just try and destroy your car for fun. Something like a burnout mode, just an idea that I think everyone would find fun. For year one of a new game, however, I'm fine with driving in career mode taking up most of the resources. This makes future games easier to add depth to. Compare this development to NASCAR 21 Ignition, and you'll notice the two games are polar opposites. NASCAR 21 had depth, it had game modes. You could even drive around the garage area in that game, yet it was universally panned and hated for having awful driving and for the majority of the game to barely work. Would you rather have a broken game full of depth that barely works and you have to hope they fix the core gameplay and logic next year? Or would you rather have a great driving and great career mode in your game, but not much else, and hope they flesh the game out more the next year? I'd much rather have the latter, and I think I'd have much more faith in the latter. Graphically, the game is okay. I don't think it looks as good as it could. It's not bad, but it has a bit of a flat, dull look to it. Pre-race presentation is pretty light, and after a caution you won't see replays of wrecks. There's no pitting animation showing you your pit crew going off. They deserve representation. For online races, I get it. For offline and career mode, I think presentation needs to improve and have different settings for full, half, little, etc. The crash model isn't as good as I hoped either. While the racing is fantastic, whether clean or with some bumping, big wrecks are underwhelming, and of course, driving backwards is lame in this game. As a kid, I loved driving backwards in NASCAR 05, trying to blow up the engines of other drivers until they burst into flames. In this game, driving backwards means you hit another car like it's a brick wall and you instantly stop. Of course, driving backwards shouldn't be a priority for the devs at all, but it's worth mentioning because more people than you'd think enjoy doing that. I'm not expecting Wreckfest level crashes, but if I return to the mindset of my 8-year-old self playing NASCAR 05, I'd probably imagine by 2026 we'd have a damage model similar to what we've seen with Wreckfest, but realistic to NASCAR. Cars get a little dented up here and there, but I feel like it could be way better. Wrecks are a huge part of NASCAR, and video games could be a great way to highlight the spectacle of the sport. I hope they work on that next year. The audio is pretty good. The engines sound nice. I have no complaints about the driving audio. However, the spotter can get a bit repetitive. There should be more lines than "winner, winner, chicken dinner" after a win, but the spotter does a good job letting you know that you're clear inside or outside. I like the soundtrack, although I wish it had some instrumental songs, something like the old NASCAR Thunder theme. And one song on the soundtrack is so annoying, I wish I could turn it and only it off. But I like the majority of the soundtrack. Next year, they should let users select or deselect which songs they want to hear, rather than just turning the whole thing off. One other minor issue I have is the game's name and release timing. Why call it 25 when it's releasing at the end of the 2025 season? Why not 26 since that season starts early next year? Why release the game at the end of the year anyways? I'd imagine it's to compete with Madden and NBA 2K, right? But those games have a 26, not a 25 in their name. So to parents or casuals who haven't looked into the game, on a store shelf it looks like last year's NASCAR game next to the 26 games. That's like if Madden released during the NFL playoffs and it was called Madden 25. I think a December or January release with a NASCAR 26 title would have made more sense, but it's really not a big deal, and I might be the only one who cares. NASCAR 25 is not a bad game at all. I've been begging other sports games to rebuild their gameplay from scratch, and then flesh out the game modes once the base is solid. And NASCAR 25 followed that philosophy to a T. My casual NASCAR perspective is that this is a good game, and one I will continue playing, but it's not a complete sports package. It's definitely not a masterpiece or the greatest NASCAR game ever made, although this series has potential a few years down the road to get there. The career mode in the driving results in a very addicting and rewarding gameplay loop, and the difficulty options provide enough customization for anyone to have fun or challenge themselves. But the presentation and the lack of more game modes does hurt the final product's replayability. Overall, I'm feeling a 6.7 out of 10 for NASCAR 25, which may sound low, but that's actually the highest score I've given to a new sports game all year. I could see the next iteration being closer to an 8 or 9 if they can flesh the game out more and create a complete, polished, absolute NASCAR experience. But for now, is this game worth buying? I would say yes, especially if you're into NASCAR, you want to get into NASCAR, or you just want a fun racing game that has a good career mode you can play through that respects the player and doesn't force microtransactions onto you. The game has already been a pretty big success, selling over 200,000 copies, so it seems like the majority of NASCAR fans have enjoyed it too. It's not perfect, but it's fun, and the series has a lot of future potential, and I'm happy with it, which is nice for once. Thanks for watching.